Welcome back to Chelsea, and it's Friday. And I can't believe the show is nearly over. What an incredible year it's been, Angelica.
It's been amazing. So many fantastic gardens giving us ideas to recreate at home.
Absolutely. I've really got the gardening bug this year, and I can't wait to hear all the tips our fantastic team of experts have for us today.
So, for the final time from both of us this week, welcome to the RHS Chelsea Flower Show 2023.
Hello, what a glorious week it has been here at Chelsea, and we have had the most incredible time, haven't we?
So much so. I am going to go bold with my containers.
Are you?
Yes.
Yeah, lots of colour?
Lots of colour.
Lots of height?
Lots of height.
Yeah, I'm still working on loving my weeds, but I've seen plenty of flowers that I absolutely adore. And if you're like us and you're looking for ideas on what you can do in your garden, we've got our brilliant team of experts here to help, with plenty to keep you busy in the garden this summer. Coming up today, all week, the Queen of the Pavilion, Carol, has been putting a spotlight on classic plants and telling us how to get the best out of them. Today, she's focusing on violas.
And with a long weekend nearly here, Rachel has her guide on how to bring a burst of colour to our outdoor spaces.
Plus, I'll be chatting to presenter Gethin Jones, and the experts in the pavilion will be helping him find the best low-maintenance plants for his garden.
And tonight, Nikki, it's a big one, isn't it?
Huge.
It's a big one, and I cannot wait. The vote is now closed, so Sophie and Joe will be revealing which of the 12 main avenue gardens you have crowned the winner of the BBC RHS People's Choice Award this evening.
And ahead of the big reveal tonight, I headed onto the showground yesterday to find out which garden the visitors here at Chelsea would crown their winner. Excuse me, sir, while you're taking photographs. Do you love this garden?
I do indeed, yeah.
And People's Choice Award, do you think this may win?
It's definitely up there, isn't it?
First impressions, what do you think?
I think it's lovely. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I mean, I'm not an expert, but it is lovely.
Do you think this Rachel might win?
I think it's absolutely gorgeous.
Now, what do we think of this garden? This is
We
Cliff
like
West's
it. We
garden.
like it
Why does it work for you?
because it is busy. There's lots going on.
The amount of insects and pollinators in this garden is incredible.
General people want a garden that they can use. Yeah, not just like a museum piece. For me, always is something, your heart, your soul, your spirit, something easy access.
But we're opening it up to the people. Do you think this stands a good chance?
I mean, we've only seen one, but I think it's lovely. Certainly, it would be up there for me, but I can't really judge. Haven't seen the other ones yet.
What's your favourite garden? Is
This
it Mark?
one.
Is
So
it?
far, I've only seen 4 so far, but this one definitely.
And why does Mark's garden work for you?
It's down to earth.
Yours going to go to
Nurture.
Nurture, Sarah Price's. And is yours going to go to the gentleman, Mark Gregory's, with the vegetable patch?
I would think so.
Which garden would you choose?
I do like this one.
Are you a keen gardener, Henry?
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
How long have you been gardening?
Since I was a baby.
Really? Out of all the gardens you've seen, which is your favourite?
It's this one right behind us. It's because it's got loads of boulders and the plants are stunning.
It's just gorgeous planting, and I think that's what everyone likes to see at Chelsea.
So, Henry, you've had your own personal tour of the garden. Is it as good as you thought it was going to be?
Yes, winner!
From entertaining at home to wowing with a water feature and adding a touch of beauty to our boundaries. All week, Toby has been showing us how you can transform your garden by taking inspiration from Chelsea. Today, he's telling us how to make our gardens real showstoppers.
The designers here at Chelsea have really pulled out all the stops. But as big and brilliant as the gardens are, there are plenty of neat little ideas here that could give your garden the wow factor. This is Chris Beardshaw's garden, and the most dominant feature are the temples. But the showstopper for me, the one that literally stops you in your tracks, is this: a maze of Irish moss on the floor. It's growing in cracks in the paving. And it has a really big effect in the way you feel about this part of the garden, because as you walk into the temple, it slows you down, and that means you're more likely to take in the views. If you're laying a new patio, leave little gaps, fill them with soil, and then just plant them up with the moss. And if you've got an existing piece of paving, particularly one where the mortar's already cracked and falling out, well, trowel them out, add some soil, and then it creates a more informal look. It's so striking, like a living rug that ties this outdoor room together. And it's so simple, it's something that you could do at home. This is Mark Gregory's stunning kitchen garden. And part of the reason it looks so good is that he's put the engine rooms, the vegetable beds, front and centre of the design. Long gone are the days when vegetables are hidden at the bottom of the garden behind a hedge. If you do it right, veg beds could be the stars of the show. First thing is, choose the right varieties. All of them grow from seed, all are economical to buy. Purple coloured vegetables like pak choy, lolla rosso lettuce, crimson beans. Now what Mark has used is old paving slabs pushed into the ground, and that sets off the vegetables and also allows for a greater depth of soil, meaning they grow better. And having vegetable beds close to your house, well, you don't have to walk very far to pick them, do you? It's a feast for the eye and a feast for the table. The most economical way to have a show-stopping feature in your garden is to grow your own. This is Sarah Price's design, and the planting is just beautiful. But the standout flower is this. It's the only one of its type in the whole of the Chelsea Showground, and its Latin name is Beschorneria jacoides. This is a top show-offs plant. And I should know, because I got it in my front garden at home. I mean, look at it. Just extraordinary. And if you grew an exotic like this in a sunny spot in your garden, you'd get the neighbours talking. But show-stopping plants aren't just about the visuals. This plant stops you in your tracks because it's so scented. It's Elaeagnus quicksilver. And although the flowers are small, my gosh, they pack such a sweet perfume punch. And part of the reason it's so pungent is that it's planted against a wall. It's such a simple trick to copy. Put your fragrant plants near the walls of your house and their perfume will build throughout the day and spill out onto the patio when you're out there in the evening. Yeah, that's how you get show-stopping scent.
Some brilliant tips from Toby there. Now, I'm on one garden that has been grabbing everyone's attention all week. Transcendence has this incredible 6-metre tall structure and blew me away when I first saw it. Now, the structure and the planting they've used creates a calming yet uplifting space, and there are plenty of ideas that we can use in our own garden. So it's lovely to meet Andrew and Gavin, the designers. Congratulations. It's just a fantastic space, really calm and peaceful. How have you managed to capture that atmosphere here on the corner of Main Avenue?
I think by just having a fairly simple palette of materials and planting. So it's fairly muted in colours with lovely greens, and then we've just got these highlights with the yellows and the purples in there as well. And so I think that helps create a sense of calm.
Yeah, it's really clean, isn't it? And muted.
And simple.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of the planting, it's in groups of fairly dense planting that could be recreated in either a smaller border or in a smaller garden. And we've used gravel as a surface that you can walk on, but also plant into to create a kind of randomised pattern. So you could add to it and take away and change it quite easily. It's not like a static
So let's talk a bit about some of the plants then. What have you used? What did you think we've got to have this in the garden?
Well, one of the things is actually the Gladitsia trees have such a light canopy that they'd filter light and you would still have very little shade, so you're still able to plant plenty of different species underneath. Through the garden there's lots of repetition. One of the things that we wanted were white poppies that soar above the planting and create a bit of drama. And then we've got the really deep purple verbascums here, and the yellow asphodeline have been catching people's attention all week. Yeah. They're a relatively unusual plant to see in gardens, but I think that maybe we might be seeing some more.
I really want to talk about the shadows and drama you've managed to create here. So let's talk about that.
That's been really important to us. It's these little ephemeral moments and passages in time. So this garden is all about shadow and light. And that's, as Andrew said, these trees give a really light dappled shade. And also as the day moves on, you get light coming through the trees and also through the planting, casting it onto the stone.
How can people create that at home?
Well, you need some sunshine.
It helps.
You know, I think people often, especially if they have smaller spaces, will just say, let's plant a smaller tree. But actually the drama of these trees comes from their height and their multi-stems.
Yeah.
So plenty of shadow patterns.
No, brilliant. Thanks again for talking to me. Fantastic space, and you really do feel that peace and spirituality.
Thank you.
Now it's time to reveal the winner of this year's President's Award. Every year, Keith Weed, the president of the RHS, chooses his favourite exhibit, and here's the moment this year's winner was surprised by the man himself.
Congratulations! So well deserved. You take that.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Whoa.
And I'm here with Graham Gunn from Kevok. Congratulations, Graham. You must be absolutely thrilled.
Yes, thank you very much. It was an incredible surprise, and yeah, we were just over the moon when we received it.
What did the rest of the team say? Because you're just south of Edinburgh, aren't you?
Yeah, so we're just outside of Edinburgh. We had a lovely team here, but we've also got an incredible team back on the nursery as well. So yeah, they're there nurturing all of the plants and looking after them when we're down here sort of enjoying the public and all the accolades down here. But yeah, we're a fantastic team.
It's certainly going down so well. Carol Klein's been raving about your stand to me. So let's just talk about some of these crowd pleasers. We've got to start off with these poppies at the back. Himalayan poppies, I believe.
Exactly, yeah. Those are one of the sort of the ones that everybody mentions. They're Himalayan blue poppies, Mechanopsis. They come from really high up in the Himalayas, so they need a really nice, moist, fertile soil. That's out of the sun as well. So even though they grow high up in the mountains, when you bring them down to this sort of elevation, they need a little bit more shade down here.
Can you grow poppies like that in most of the UK or not?
Yeah.
You've got to have the right soil, haven't
Exactly. So the west coast of Scotland and Wales and Ireland and Cornwall, sort of, they're the golden sort of line, as it were. Those are the ones that can grow them very easily. However, you can grow them in most parts of the UK, and each year we're sort of always amazed by people coming back from Cambridge or Hever in Kent as well, all these sort of places that have grown them successfully to flower as well.
Can I just mention this little beauty here, this primula?
Yeah, so again, primulas are a huge diverse genera. They grow all over the world, but the one that grows best in the UK is the primulas, the sort of candelabra ones, which are sort of one of the most famous as well. And those are the easiest ones to grow in the UK.
What sort of soil do you need to have?
So up in Scotland, we can almost grow them in full sun, but as you move down the country, they just need a little bit more moisture and a little bit more shade, so sort of dappled shade in a nice moisture-retentive soil.
Yeah, beautiful. Graham, congratulations. Well deserved.
Thank you very much.
Now, all week, Carol has been unearthing the planting treasures in our gardens that deserve to be in the spotlight. And today, she's got tips on a classic.
The showground is packed with flowers that often fly under the radar. So today, I want to shine the spotlight on one of the stars of our gardens. Perhaps the two members of this family that we know best are violas and pansies. Violas are known for their dainty, rather smaller flowers and their lovely soft colours, lots of violets and whites and yellows within it. Pansies, on the other hand, have these smiling faces, very, very familiar plants. This is the Victorian viola stand. With modern breeding, what was beginning to happen was that violas were losing their perennial quality, in other words, their ability to live from year to year. So this nursery has gone back to older varieties, crossed them, and this is their new introduction for this year. This is a selection called Bridie, and I think she's beautiful, and she's got beautiful scents. They'll flower from April right the way through till September, October, especially if you deadhead them. Just nip the flowers off when they've died back, right back down to the first set of leaves. This is Viola cornuta, and it's a variety called Borton Blue. It's the dearest little plant. It comes originally from the mountains of Europe, from the Pyrenees and places like that, and there it will grow in semi and dappled shade. It's an absolutely lovely and very, very easy plant to grow. It'll spread gently around, which makes it excellent ground cover. Because it's a species, you can grow it from seed and have more of these beautiful plants. We've got two native violets. The one we're used to seeing is the dog violet, but there's another one that's a bit more special. It's called a sweet violet. Here it is, tucked into this gorgeous garden. There's a different viola from across the Atlantic Ocean. It's Viola labradorica. Funnily enough, it comes from Labrador, and I've got a little plant of it here. It's got really deep purple foliage, absolutely beautiful, and it flowers a bit earlier than Chelsea, so by this time those flowers have turned to seed. But you know, whatever garden you've got, whether it's in sun or shade, town or country, there's bound to be a viola, at least one, that's perfect for you.
Oh, thank you, Carol. I'd like some of those in my garden. Now, I'm joined by Morning Live presenter and keen gardener, Gethin Jones. Welcome to Chelsea. But I didn't realise you're a little bit of a newbie here. You haven't been before.
First time, I know. What a privilege to be here, and how beautiful it is as well. It's everything it's lived up to be. I've done quite a few of the other RHS events in Hampton and Tatton Park, Cardiff, when I came to Cardiff, but never Chelsea, so great to be here.
It does take your breath away as you walk through, doesn't it?
It's amazing. I don't understand how they get the gardens in here. That's what blows me. It's like they've been here forever.
Absolutely. 18 days to build gardens like this.
Yeah.
And in the Great Pavilion, they sort of come in 3 days beforehand and it's transformed.
It's superb.
Now, we know quite a lot about you, Gethin. You know, you're on our TV, we've seen you on Strictly, but what I didn't know is that you're a keen gardener.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm the best at this kind of stuff, but after finishing uni, I didn't really want an office job, so an next-door neighbour was moving, and the garden was a mess for the incomers. So I was like, well, I'll clear it for you for a 10 or a 20 quid. And before I knew it, someone else asked down the street, and then someone else around the corner, and we had this little business. In the end, I remember employing my friend Rod for £4.50 an hour just to clean these gardens out. So we called it Geth's Gardens, or Get the Geth in Welsh, and we made a bit of pocket money over the summer.
Lovely. You weren't tempted to take it on?
I just think it's a different skill. Just walking around here. I mean, I used to clear the gardens out, but these designers are just phenomenal.
Yeah, this is another level,
I just don't understand how they do it. It's beautiful.
But what's so brilliant, I mean, any of the shows that you can get to, if you can, just watching it is the take-home, how you can create little pockets of this, because you've just moved house.
That's why I'm here,
you?
exactly, yeah. I've sort of always lived in flats with small spaces, which is fine, because there's lots you can do with that. But now I do have a garden, it's quite minimalistic. I definitely need some help, for sure.
So have you gone from a balcony garden with containers to actually starting from scratch?
Yeah, well, our Morning Live balcony is quite a small space, and Mark Lane, who's well known to Chelsea and to us as well, has got great advice on the smaller spaces. I had tomato plants for a long time to entice the bees in, which was something I became quite passionate about. But now I've got the garden, I have some more options. But I have a bit of a dilemma. It's sort of at the back of the garden, it's just a fence. I think you were there a few years ago, weren't you, in your garden? We were talking about it, and it's just what you do with it, because we sit out and you're just looking at a blank fence.
Yeah.
Blank canvas, great. And most people would be excited by that, but I'm like, I don't know what to do, so I definitely need some ideas.
But you can start from scratch. And what do you want? Are you after flowers? Are you after shrubs? Do you want to encourage the wildlife?
Yes.
All of that. Tick, tick, as the birds flew over us. That was perfect timing,
That was
wasn't it?
amazing, yeah. Definitely to entice some wildlife. I think, I don't know, maybe some bushes, maybe some sculptures as well, just something interesting to look at. I like the garden to be an extension of your house. Why shouldn't it be, really, rather than, just sort of an empty space?
Absolutely. Well, we use our gardens in so many ways, don't we?
Exactly.
Some people are able to work in their garden, to entertain. I mean, we've got this fantastic kitchen behind us.
This is the dream, isn't it? I'm not saying I'm going to have a full ready-made kitchen with everything in the garden I can eat in front of me, but it definitely needs something, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. If we're lucky enough to have outside space, use it as much as you can. So if there's one dilemma, what are you going to be looking for the answer for as you tour this incredible grounds?
I'm hoping you're going to set me off to find something. So my garden's in like 3 sections, really, and it's sort of the back end where the sun is, where we all sort of congregate, you know, and that's exactly what you're saying. Now I can entertain in the garden, have people over. It's just having somewhere nice to sit, something to look at. So whether that is some shrubbery, some hedging, maybe a sculpture, something like that I think is probably
Quite a
doable,
long
isn't it?
list.
Is it?
You've got your work cut out,
That's
but you're going to
lots
enjoy
to
it
get
though.
through.
Great homework, and hopefully you'll be taking some plants home at the same time as well. Gethin, as ever, thank you very
It's
much.
lovely to see you.
Now, here's what else we've got coming up for you at the Chelsea Flower Show 2023, an event supported by the Newt in Somerset. All week, Rachel has been telling us about the perfect planting rules to follow to get a fantastic summer border. Today, she's telling us how to put plants together to bring a burst of Chelsea colour to them. Plus, if you love being in your garden but find accessing and maintaining your space a little bit of a challenge, well, don't worry. Mark is showing us how to make gardening easier. And Carol's back at the end of the show to answer your questions in the Chelsea Clinic. Do keep them coming in on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Now, James is back with his final guide of the week to help get us growing. And today, it's all about the food we eat.
You know, when I was growing up, every horticultural textbook would have this illustration of the ideal garden. And they were all largely the same. You'd step out of your back door onto a perfect patio with really neat bedding plants. There'd be a long stretch of lawn. And then hidden right at the back, next to the compost bins and the garden hose, would be your edible patch. There was this unspoken rule that you couldn't possibly have a garden that was both edible and ornamental. Well, thank goodness times are changing, and designers at Chelsea are really showing that you can have your garden and eat it. I've fallen in love with the School Food Matters garden, and that's because it might be dripping in pure Chelsea aesthetic gloss, but at least 80% of the plants that make it up are edible. And I'm talking proper meat and 2 veg. I've seen asparagus here, really set off against the beautiful silver ferny foliage of things like artichokes. Top of that, you've got stuff like garlic, leeks and chives. You've got pomegranates, you've got quince, you've even got native British hawthorn. And it just creates this incredible edible woodland vibe. Neil, the theme of food forest just seems to be coming up over and over again at Chelsea. But what does the term actually mean?
It's the 7 layers of the gardening. So it's your upper canopy level, it's your shrub layer, it's your herbaceous level. So all these things are really important to sustain a balance.
So you're trying to recreate the structure of natural forests, but
correct,
with carefully selected edible plants?
That's right.
So you've managed to achieve something really spectacular in a small space. What are a couple of tips you could give for people at home?
Yes, so you can grow everything in pots if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You can generate with different heights.
Yeah.
You can grow dry things in a pot. You can create those conditions. So you've got a sunny space, and you can grow pine and perhaps a lovely pomegranate.
So tell me about the pine, because that's not necessarily the first plant people might think of when they think of edible plants.
That's because it has the pine nuts, and the pines itself, pine needles, young needles, you can put into salads as well.
What are the benefits of creating an edible garden along the lines of a forest? Why would you want to do this?
Okay, it's hard work. With a food forest, you've got your perennials in there, you've got your perennial kales perhaps, you've got your perennial brassicas, and it can look beautiful. I mean, this is
it's
what we're
stunning.
about. Different textures, leaf shapes. Yeah.
You can grow things in pots and still have a food forest.
Why not? Absolutely. You don't have to do it on a massive scale.
And even win a medal at Chelsea Flower Show.
I know, and I'm so proud of that as well.
You should be. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks, James. I'll definitely be trying to grow some of those. Well, over the summer months, we're all going to be spending hours in our gardens and the great outdoors, creating memories that we want to cherish forever. And a great way to capture those magical moments is to turn them into pieces of art. Louise Condon is an expert in ceramics and has a few ideas of what we can do. Welcome, Louise.
Hello, Angelica. Thank you very much.
This is all really beautiful,
Oh, thank you
really
very
beautiful.
much.
So tell me a bit about this process.
People send flowers through the post, or I grow a lot of flowers in the garden. I do a lot of foraging down my local sort of cycle track. just capturing the seasons or specific moments. So this one's been made with a wedding bouquet.
So someone sent you their bouquet and wanted to remember that
from
moment.
a special
and those
day,
flowers,
so it just
yeah.
captures that sort of moment in time, really. So you can make jugs or vases, wall plaques,
coasters,
dishes.
anything really, isn't it? Which is really, really good. So how do you do it?
So you push the flowers into the clay before you construct the shapes, and then you get this lovely sort of depth of texture from the beautiful plants.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this is your profession. You do it so well, but we can do this at home, can't we?
Yes. So you can sort of pick up some clay, air drying clay from your local craft store, and collect your plants, push them in, and then let them dry out, ready for painting.
Excellent. Well, Louise earlier did a step-by-step guide, so you can do this at home.
So this is how we prepare the clay. Take it from your packet, pop it onto your cloth to remove any sort of dampness. Get yourself a couple of even sticks. Roll the clay onto your cloth. Turn it over just in case you get any sort of stickiness and it gets stuck to the cloth. That puts people off. And then you're ready when you hear that sort of noise. Get your template, biscuit tin lid, anything that you've got around the kitchen, just slightly push it in. Just as a guide. Get yourself a few stems from your garden. Nigella, lovely and textured. Some cow parsley, quite seasonal, and some grasses, and some bunny tails. Create your composition. I quite like mine to stay in the centre of the shape. Pop those on, they can overlap, they can be separate. Roll them in, just to sort of secure the space. Pop your sticks out the way, roll again, you get a nice deep impression there. Peel your flowers out. Sometimes they might get stuck into your clay, so you could use a pair of tweezers or a little knife just to pick out the extra bits there. Leave that for a couple of minutes to dry off. Pop your template back on. Get a craft knife or a knife out your kitchen drawer. Cut around your shape. There we go, lovely impression. Pop it on a windowsill, let it dry for a couple of days, and then it's ready for painting.
I'm going to be doing this. It's so easy to do, isn't
indeed.
it? And here are the two that are drying out. And I guess you just pick these out once it starts drying, yeah?
Yeah, as they start to dry, they'll kind of they kind of rub out on their own quite easily. Or you can pick them out with tweezers, so you can just...
There we go.
Pick them out.
There you go.
They'll pop out quite easy
perfect.
and just give it a dust.
So, painting. We've got one here ready to paint.
So this one has just had a little coat of white acrylic paint, so that the paint will then rub off easy. And then you just mix up your shade of colour that you want.
Shall I do it now?
Yeah, yeah. Bit brown there. Pop it into the bit of cow parsley. Bit of blue, bit of blue.
Okay, and just what, over the...
Yeah, pop it into the top here, into this nice bit of cow parsley.
Okay.
Put it into all the grooves.
Just as easy as that, but it looks a bit messy.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And then you just get a nice damp sponge and you just wipe over the surface, and then you should leave that nice residue in the slots of the... It'll highlight the lovely definition of the flower.
Yes. Okay, well, I'm going to keep going with this. Maybe it'll be ready in time and I can give it to Nikki.
Hopefully.
Or maybe I'll just keep it for myself.
Yeah, maybe.
Louise, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, lovely.
For so many of us, being in a garden is an essential part of our routine. It's a place to relax, to recuperate and unwind, but it can be inaccessible. The designers here have reimagined what a garden should be, adapting it to make sure gardening really is a place for everyone. Now, Mark, I'm delighted that we're together in this garden because you are so passionate about making gardens accessible to all.
Absolutely. I mean, we're an ageing population, so it doesn't matter what ability or inability we have, we need to make gardens accessible and have them beautiful. And that's what I notice about here. It's just a beautiful garden just to sit in and relax. It's a lovely place for passive gardening where you just chill, recuperate and relax in it. And that's what I love about it.
It's a garden really for everybody, isn't it?
It is.
Because as you walk in, you're bowled over by the beauty, but there's been some really clever techniques used. Should we start off with the paving?
Absolutely. So the first thing to think about is you need to have pathways that are wide enough. So you need pathways if you imagine two people walking side by side, that's the kind of width you want to go for. And they very cleverly also put an edger all the way around in a contrasting colour, so you can see where that is. So if they push in the beds around, or you're in a wheelchair, or even just by foot, you know where you are with the bat. You're not going to end up in a border crushing your flowers, which is important. And also, Hugo and Charlotte have actually come up with this incredible material, which is recycled concrete, and then it's set in a Cemex solution. And what that means is it's completely porous, so all the water's going to go through. So we're not going to get icy patches, it's not going to pool water either, which of course you don't want, especially under wheels. And this means then that also you've got really good grip, and that's really essential as well, because we need that.
What about the planting, the different levels?
Yeah, so the planting is really interesting. So of course, you know, from a seated position again, or from a bed, you want sort of this multi-layered effect. And they've done that beautifully. The only criticism I would say, and I know this won a gold, and beautiful as it is, for me, it needs a little bit more of a backdrop in order to really show off that layering. We sort of get it on this side, but then you've got to remember that this garden is going to move into Sheffield, and this is only an eighth of the size that it's finally going to be. So I'm sure we're going to see that there.
And I've got to mention the water feature, because a lot of people, we have troubles with our hips or our knees, and I love the fact that it's actually raised, so it's easy to get to.
Exactly, you can easily get to it, you can enjoy it, and why not? Because water really is that powerful element in a garden. It can help us relax, and at the same time, if it's just that little sound, can help us rejuvenate as well with those positive ions that it gives off.
And I really like the idea that you can put planters on wheels on a garden like this and move it around, can't you?
Well, that's what's really important. You need to think about a space as being a multifunctional space. So by having wheels on pots, you can move them around, you can open up a space, or you can make it feel more enclosed. And that's what's so great about it. But also, creating like little nooks like we have behind me for that little personal space, that me time that we all need.
Yes, well, you use the term beautiful, and it truly is. And it is a garden for everybody. Thank you, Mark.
It's time now to reveal the winner of this year's Best All About Plants garden. Now, the category was introduced last year to encourage first-time designers to exhibit here at Chelsea. Here's the moment the RHS revealed who had won.
So, Joe Carey, I am delighted on behalf of the RHS to present you with the RHS Best All About Plants Award 2023.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Joe and Laura, I don't think it's really sunk in, has it?
No, not really. I mean, we haven't seen much of each other, to be fair, to actually celebrate. So, yeah, it was amazing. But Laura had actually gone home to be with the kids, and then 30 minutes later, I was on my own receiving the award for both of us, and then I had to ring Laura and tell her what happened, and it was it was a bit of a whirlwind, wasn't it?
And you didn't think anything like this would happen. It's your first time here at Chelsea.
Absolutely. I think we were geared up for the medals. We weren't expecting a gold, and actually we so didn't expect to get best in show that neither of us were even considering it.
Well, you have. And your garden's all about sustainability and wildlife. What tips can you give people who are keen growers who want to tap into that more?
We have plants that will encourage wildlife, bees and butterflies. And actually it's really important to include flowers that flower for a really long period, like the geranium, cashmere white, but also flowers that are really easy to get to for the insects. So umbels are really brilliant. We've got anthriscus here, and the bees have been absolutely loving the cercium.
And the robin,
yes,
as well, in the tree, eating the caterpillars.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I was a bit worried he was going to poo on our fence before judging, but he didn't. But he's been really helpful because the caterpillars are really eating the leaves of the trees, but the robin's come and he's really helped us out.
Listen, the garden is stunning. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you again next year.
Thank you.
Thanks. Now, one thing I love about Chelsea is all the planting inspiration from the world-class designers and growers. However, I often wonder what are the best ways to put the plants together in my garden. Now, this week, Rachel has been showing us the key planting rules used to create the perfect border. And today she's telling us how to bring a burst of colour to our gardens.
Chelsea is awash with plants in every hue, and how you use colour is really important in creating a pleasing garden. And this display is a kaleidoscope of colour. We've got these gorgeous candelabra primulas in different shades of pink and gold. There's a little corydalis, which is ice blue, and then this lovely purple of the Iris sibirica. And I noticed also there's a lovely Martagon lily in the back corner, and that's called orange marmalade. And it's quite important when you're placing plants as well, just to remember that if you keep cooler, paler colours at a distance, they'll give the impression that the space is bigger than it is. That's quite a good trick. Sometimes the colour even changes on a single plant as the flower matures. This is Rosa mutabilis. In bud, it's this sort of corally orange, and then it opens fully to this soft pink. Absolutely beautiful. Colour is a wonderful thing. This garden has such a wonderfully fresh, verdant look to it. And these cool colours are very calming because they have a shorter wavelength, and that means our eyes don't have to work as hard to see them. But it's so effective in just creating an atmosphere. Lots of beautiful things with the white flowers, the Viburnum opulus, almost like snowballs, and things like the Achillea, that's very pale down here. And of course, it's not just the flowers. There are the lovely white stems of the silver birch. And of course, a whole palette of different greens in the foliage. So the whole thing makes you feel relaxed and invigorated somehow at the same time. Plants and pollinators have developed a relationship. So the flower produces nectar and pollen to feed the pollinators, and in return, those insects actually pollinate the flower, they set seed and create the next generation of plants. And it works brilliantly, and nature has designed it so that each insect actually is drawn to sort of different parts of the colour spectrum, and bees see ultraviolets and blues and purples really well. And so this garden is just perfect for them. We've got things like the soft blues of the Nepeta, and then going into these rich purples of the allium and the foxglove. It's also a really good idea to have a range of flower shapes because different bees have a different tongue length. And so the ones with longer tongues love the tubular flowers of things like the foxglove, although sometimes a short-tongued bee will also make a little hole at the back of the flower and steal the nectar, so it's not an infallible system. But what you get here is this wonderful wash of lovely soft blues, mauves and purples. It's beautiful to us, and it really is beneficial to those pollinators.
Earlier in the show, I met presenter Gethin Jones, who wanted to find out how to create a focal point in his garden using plants that take minimum effort to look after. Well, there's no better place to find those answers than here in the Great Pavilion. Let's find out how he got on.
You're welcome. Have a look. Have a lovely day. See you later. Lovely. See you later. So many colours, so many different options, but I've got my eye on something particular. Stanley, Gethin.
Hi, Gethin.
Lovely to meet you.
And you.
I've had a good look round Chelsea because I've got a little bit of a dilemma in my garden, which I'll come to in a second, but I couldn't help be drawn to what you have here, this beautiful topiary. These animals almost look like they come into life. That's the idea, I guess.
Well, that's the gift of our sculptor. He makes these armature frames that we put the plants on, and he's really got a feel for animals and how they move.
So topiary's been around for a long, long time?
Apparently, topiaris dates back to Roman days. Then I think in Victorian times they started making metal frames, and then the plants would grow in it so the gardeners could clip to that shape.
Which leads me on to my little dilemma in my garden.
Go on then, what's
so
your
this is the garden here. I mean, it does need a clean as well, I'll give you that.
Looks sunny spot.
Yeah, sun most of the day, actually.
Good.
How would a bit of topiary work there, do you think? Because that's what I've got in my head.
Would you take the pavement up, or...?
Oh, wow. Could I?
You could, or you could have it in something like that, or a structure like that.
Okay. So like structures like that in a garden like this would be something to look at?
Oh yeah, if you don't want to take the paving stones up.
I've also come across box plants as being a nice tidy option for the back of the garden.
Well, going back to the Latin again, Buxa sempervirens, box, or as Americans call it boxwood, has got a lot of problems at the moment. It gets fungal infections.
So are there alternatives to the box plant then?
Well, the two we've found that most closely replicate it are boxleaf privet and Japanese holly, Ilex granata. And over there we've got a prancing horse in Ilex granata.
Oh, so that's well, wow, that you really can't tell the difference because the leaves are that.
The leaves
similar.
are almost identical.
Stanley, I feel like I've got some extra information here to think about. It's very useful for my dilemma. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Very nice to meet you. Have a great show.
You too. So my first time at Chelsea then, and there is so much to look at. It can be a little bit overwhelming, but now I feel like I've got a few options to focus on. So I'm going to have another little look and make a decision.
It's nearly the end of the show and the end of Chelsea 2023 for myself and Nikki.
Yes, but don't worry, before we go, it's time for our last Chelsea Clinic. And who better to answer your questions today than the Queen of the Great Pavilion, yes, Carol Klein herself. We're delighted you could join us at the end of our week.
It's lovely to be here outside in the sunshine.
Isn't it gorgeous? Have you had a fantastic time here this year?
Wonderful. I think it's been so positive. It's been brilliant.
It has. We needed it after the weather we've had. So shall we get cracking with the questions?
Oh, yes, please.
Here we go, Carol. Starting off with Sarah Bombera. What a great name on Twitter. Can I plant a camellia in full shade, she asks?
Yeah, absolutely. Behind our house we've got no garden but a small bed with a big camellia. Gets no sun at all. It's camellia donation and every year it's absolutely flowing with flowers. It's wonderful. Absolutely fine.
Yes, great. Angelica.
OK, I'm here with Craig and Kylie from Stockton-on-Tees, who actually got married yesterday, so we're on their honeymoon. Congratulations! What's your question?
Just in relation to aces, I've just recently got an acer and I'm more of a fruit and veg kind of guy, so it's new terrain to me. I just need some advice and information just around aces in general, please.
Just try and, with any plant, try and emulate the sort of conditions where it grows in the wild. So they grow under the canopy of trees. You don't have to plant a big tree, but in a shady place, out of full sun, and make sure it's not exposed to high winds, because they don't like that either. It makes the leaves shrivel. And then just water it copiously and give it an occasional feed.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
happy?
Thank you very much.
Good.
OK. Kit Beckles, or I should perhaps say Brittany, says, oops, I did it again. An
Right.
impulse buy. We've all been there, haven't we? She says, I've just bought a white feather hosta. I've never grown hostas before. Is copper a slug deterrent? And also, will this variety be OK in full sun?
That's two questions
It
in one,
is.
isn't it? That's cheaty. First of all, copper is a deterrent, but the best deterrent is to grow it in a copper pot and sink your pot inside it. That'll do it.
Right.
But failing that, you can try a bit of copper wire. Sometimes it works. As far as this hosta, it's almost pure white when it comes out, which means it's got very little chlorophyll in its leaves, the stuff that makes them green, which means it'll scorch if it's planted in full sun. So definitely in deep shade.
Yeah, keep it in the shade.
Well, I'm with Rhiannon, who's from Northern Ireland. You've got a question, haven't you, about
Yes.
small gardens?
Please, thank you. I have a yard, it's purely concrete, and I'm looking for some advice on containers for the cottage garden feel with the flowers and the foliage hiding everything.
Yeah. Can't do anything about the concrete, but I love the hair.
Thank you very
much. I think if you want cottagey garden feel, just plant exactly the sort of plants that you would grow anyway in a cottage garden. So astrantias, loads of herbaceous perennials, mix them with lots of soft grasses too. Grow them in soil-based compost in your pots, because that'll keep them going for ages. And what's more, they'll go on year after year after year.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, that's lovely. Colourful hair, colourful outfit, colourful containers.
Yes. You're good. And what do I have to put into my tanks, first of all, when I plant?
Holes.
I'll do that. Lots of those.
We could all do with some more balcony gardens, can't we, in containers, and we just love it. And thank you, as ever, Carol, for all your advice and for joining us. And sadly, that's all we've got time for this year.
But Sophie and Joe will be revealing the results of this year's BBC RHS People's Choice Award on BBC One at 7:30 tonight. They're going to be joined by Dame Mary Berry and comedian Jason Manford.
Carol, of course, is going to be back on BBC Two, aren't you, with Monty and Joe at 8 o'clock tonight, where actress Caroline Quentin gives us a sneak peek at her stunning Devon garden. And a massive thank you for joining us this week.
We hope you've got the gardening bug and have a great summer.
Absolutely. Till next year. Bye-bye.
Bye.